This is the Grapple of Your Eye show, episode 39, James Mason. Okay, welcome to the Grapple of Your Eye show. My guest today has been described as British wrestling royalty and one of the last great masters to come through the old school system. I give to you, Mr. James Mason. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Oh, what a lovely intro. Thank you. It means a lot. Got to live up to it now, haven't I?
No problem. The question we always ask anyone that joins us for the first time is, where did it begin for you?
So I've answered this one a few times, but I'll keep it as brief because this could be a long hour conversation just on talking on this subject. So I think it was about the age of 3 or 4. I just remember watching it with my dad Saturday afternoons with my mum and being at home and not quite understanding it, but just loving it, not really knowing what it was. I knew in round 2 or round 3 something would happen. Didn't quite get it, but I just loved it. And then obviously fell in love with Big Daddy and stuff like that. And then at the age of 7, I went to see my very first show at Fairfield Halls, Croydon, and never looked back. First ever match I saw was Alan Kilby versus Mal Sanders, and it was just an amazing introduction to live wrestling. And the whole show, I mean, I remember the show as if it was yesterday. I remember every match, every result. It was just the perfect show to introduce someone to wrestling. And I think back, if it was a different show, if these guys wasn't on the show, if it wasn't that particular bill, would I have been as hooked up? I don't know. I always ask myself that question. But the bill, in my opinion, was one of the best you could ever see in that time frame. And I got to see it live in Fairfield Hall, absolutely packed, and the atmosphere just blew me away. And I think that was 96, I think it was, or 97, and I just blew me away. And ever since then, I was hooked. And yeah,
Who was young James a fan of? Who was it that was catching your eye at that point?
well, I've got to be honest, it was at the age of sort of 6 and 7, it was Big Daddy. I'll be totally honest, and people go, oh, why was he your favourite? Well, he just was. He was larger than life. He was just so entertaining to watch. And then as I got older, so the brief story was the first match was Kilby and Sanders. I remember it so clearly, brilliant. Such a good match. Second match was Caswell Martin versus Ray Steele. And I'll be honest, as a 7-year-old kid, you don't really appreciate that. You don't get it. I just didn't get it. And I wasn't enjoying it. I was a bit bored. Next match, here we come, Big Daddy, Drew McDonald, Ivan and Red, Greg Valentine. It was just wow. And like 2-3 years later, you fast forward and you think, God, Caswell Martin Ray Steele was just an absolute treat to watch. Like, just amazing matches, and you learn that new respect. And I used to love Rocco. I used to love all these people. Then as you get a little bit older, you realise, well, Rocco's amazing, but Finley's the master. You know, you work out, you start seeing things differently. As a 7-year-old, it's all so exciting. But get to 8 or 9, 10, you start seeing it differently. And just seeing the difference in how that show was put together. It was brilliant. There was a knockout tournament in the second half. So that was the first half of the show. So I've got to drag on it. But then second half, I've just seen Big Daddy, and it just blew my mind how good it was. Interval comes, I'm just a little kid running up and down the corridor, so excited. Then after the interval, it was a knockout tournament. Richie Brooks, Danny Collins, Sid Cooper, Steve Gray. Like, to me, they were just the ultimate. So to watch all those people on one show on day one, if you don't get hooked after that, then this isn't for you. And I just loved it. And me and my father went regular. He saw how much I loved it. We went 2-3 times a week. Sometimes we went constantly all over the country. Very lucky to have a father who really supported it, and he enjoyed it as well. And just seeing his son was so happy with a hobby that he loved to do. And we travelled all over the country watching shows. And so that's where it started for me. Went on. And then when I was about 11, I thought, I want to do this. I really want to give this a go. I was a bit too young. A year later, joined the amateur gym. So I managed to get a good year in the amateur ranks, which was good. I didn't do well. Didn't do well at all. I won a few competitions, but it was a great background for me to say that I had that And then, yeah, the story goes, I was a 13-year-old kid. I went to see a show in King's Lynn with one of the amateur wrestlers that I was training with. And we got to King's Lynn Corn Exchange, a great venue, a really good like venue for wrestling. We're looking through the window and there's this little old man trying to set the ring up, really struggling. And we knocked on the window, banging, banging. And he come out really abruptly, like, what the do you want? I don't know, so if I do swear at all, I do apologise. Yeah, he come out, what the hell do you lads want? And we said, we just want to know if you want any help with the ring. And he dragged the two of us in, dragged us in. We helped with the ring, managed to get in the ring, just a 13-year-old kid, managed to have a little amateur pull around with this guy I was with. And the wrestlers come out and watched and thought, who are these two youngsters actually? We wasn't trying to jump off the top rope or hit the ropes. We were just
Yeah.
pulling around doing amateur. And a few of the guys noticed it, and then a week later we got asked to come back and help with the ring again, and help with the ring again, and went on. And then, yeah, a few weeks after my 40th birthday, that was when, as we mentioned earlier, basically Brian Dixon just said, we need an extra wrestler tomorrow. Do you think you're ready? And I said, no, not at all. And he basically said, well, I'll ask you that question again. Do you think you're ready? And I said, well, if you think I am. He said, I don't know if you are. I'm asking you. And I had to talk myself into doing it because I wasn't ready. I wasn't professionally trained. I was bit of an amateur background. I'd certainly learned to take a bump. I'd learned to hit the ropes by then. But and yeah, so July 1993 was my first match, and I think I did okay because yeah, and I got a full-time job pretty much from then onwards. So blessed, so
Who was
lucky.
it with? Who was the
A guy
match with?
called Darren Walsh. Yeah, Darren Walsh, great guy, really good, really helpful, and he was good. He was very good. He doesn't wrestle so much anymore. I think he's took a back seat now, but he was good. And what a great way to start. Someone who was a little bit older than me, knew a lot more than me, and I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but he really helped me, and everyone did. Second match, I was in a tag with Danny Collins and Richie Brooks, two like my absolute heroes. Third match, I was on against Mel Sanders in Bournemouth Pavilion, and it just went on and on. Within my first week, I'd wrestled with Danny Collins, Richie Brooks, Mel Sanders, Marty Jones. I mean, you just don't get these sort of introductions into wrestling. So, and that first 6 months was just the guys I wrestled, the shows I was on, it was just out of this world, and a full time job
What are
for
your
me.
memory? I was gonna say, what are your memories of the match with Sanderson? As this is like the first match you saw, you know, what I mean, that must be like a nice little sort of full circle moment
Yeah,
almost.
well, I do, and so the story with the mouse, it's not a funny story, but it's absolutely true. So it was at the Bournemouth Pavilion, a lovely, lovely venue. A lot of guys still working there, and I got there early, put the ring up as I would do. It was a Tuesday evening, and it's about show started at 7:45. Then about 20 past 7, Brian Dixon says, "You know you're wrestling tonight." I said, "Oh, no, I didn't know." He said, "Yeah, you are. Quick, you're on first." Well, there's 200 punters already watching it already at the shows, taking their seats. My wrestling bag was under the ring, so I had to run to the ring, go under, lift up the skirt, go under, get my bag, run upstairs, and I say to Brian Dixon as I'm going up the stairs, the change room used to be upstairs in Bournemouth, "Who am I on with?" He said, "Kid, don't worry about that. Just get upstairs and get yourself ready. Don't worry who you're on with." And as a kid, I wanted to know who I was on with. I was terrified. I walk in there. Mal Sanders said, "Bloody hell, you're late. Sit down, you little," called me all sorts under the sun. "Where you been?" And oh, he was having a right go at me. And it was just having a bit of fun with me. And I wrestled Mal Sanders that night. And again, I'm going to give stuff away, but I think I found a friend that day. He was fantastic. And he helped me so much. And I wrestled him 3 times that week. We went from Bournemouth to Hastings to Chelsea in 3 days. I wrestled him all 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And yeah, and he was just amazing to be around. He helped me so much. And so, like, sorry, it's a long answer to a actual question,
No,
but
no, no, don't worry.
the guys then were so good that I was just an object. Let me say, I was just someone who knew how to hit the ropes, knew how to take a bump, didn't really know how to wrestle, but they knew that if they wrestled me, they have to make me look good, otherwise there's no match. And they had a way of just manoeuvring me, doing whatever they did. And so when I started, I learned how to work an audience, how to work a crowd, how to interact with them and how to entertain them, opposed to learning 1,001 moves and trying to do this high spot and trying to do that high spot. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's the wrong way to do it. That just meant that was never my vision of wrestling. High spot, get this stuff and then do this, do that move. So I was very lucky that those guys I wrestled were so good. They could make me look like a star every night. And they was wrestling a 14-year-old kid. So if they just beat up a 14-year-old kid, it's only entertaining for a couple of minutes. We had to get a 15, 20-minute match. Still 6 5-minute rounds back then, 2 falls. So really blows my mind how lucky I was when I started to be with those guys.
So where
Go
does it
on,
go? So we've
sorry.
got young James the ring boy, who's
Yeah.
getting a few matches here and there with some massive legends, who's sort of 14, getting older. How does that fit in with school, college, that sort of thing? And then obviously at some point it becomes a full time job for you. So what's that struggle? Because I imagine now people listening, there might be some young teenagers listening to this thinking, this sounds amazing. That's exactly what I want to do. But obviously it was a different time then as well with all the shows that were on. But where does that start to take you? Because surely there must have been bits where it's like, right, it's college now or whatever else. Or
Well, I think you've just summed up there. It is a different time now. So again, what I did was naughty. My parents probably shouldn't have allowed me. I think they knew how much I wanted this. My mum and dad were really supportive. They shouldn't have been, but I was basically working 4 or 5 nights a week and being at school all day. So I was taking a big bag in the school with me, going and putting the bag in one of the teachers' classes who understood what I was doing. He knew what I was doing. He was really helpful. And I'd be nipping off at lunchtime and not coming back. I was getting letters sent home. I was getting phone calls sent home. And my mum just basically said, "Well, what do you want me to do? I can't chain him in. I can't make him start school." And so looking back, it was terrible. It was really bad what I was doing. And after about a year of that, the teachers just said, "Look, he's here, but he's not here. He's got his vision." Some of the teachers had come to see me wrestle. One particular wrestle come up to Stoke-on-Trent at Hanley to watch me wrestle. So with Marty Jones, it was a real big match. I always remember the teacher saying, you've got a chance here. And he really supported me, went and told like the head teachers, and they basically said, you can leave, however, you have to come back for your exams. If you can promise that, we'll let you go. And it wasn't official and we could have got in trouble, but nothing come of it. And unfortunately, I didn't make the exams either, which I'm not proud to say. I ended up having shows on all those days. So it was a different time. I wouldn't want my kids doing it. I wouldn't encourage anyone to do it. It just worked for me at the time. And in a way, it worked very well. But if I could have gone back, maybe I would have finished things like that. I would have got a few grades. And you don't know. It's all those in hindsight if you know. But
oh yeah, there's those woulda, shoulda, coulda. It's world's
absolutely.
full of those. So where does that? So are you now then? So you've left school now. Is it now a full-time job at this point, or are you
Well,
still sort of looking around and getting in where you
no,
can?
well, it was pretty much full time from about. So I remember doing a show in Bristol in December for All Star, and back then there was obviously no emails, there was no text, it was
Yeah,
just. And Brian Dixon received a letter. He always told me, he called me up one day. He said he'd got a letter from a fan, an older lady who he respected that had gone to shows for years. She'd wrote a letter to the office back in Fountain Street and said, "Oh, I watched James Mason wrestle. I really think he's got something, etc." He seemed a real nice guy, and she really put me on his letter. To this day, I don't know who this lady was, and he basically said, from the first week of January, you're full time. You can do whatever jobs you can do. This is the list. I'll give you a date sheet. If you can't do it from school, then I understand. However, there's enough shows in the area so you can make them after school. So yeah, it was basically from sort of January 1994. I had 2 weeks off to go to Ireland. I remember doing that for Owen Williams. That was a real big thing for me, and it just was full time from there. So it was busy from '93 July, but it was proper full time from uh,
How,
from January
how did
19.
it change maybe from being sort of young James, the ring boy, who's coming in, who they're showing a bit to and having a few matches with, to sort of now you're full time sort of on the roster. Did the expectations change at all?
I think in the ring it did. Outside the ring, I was still the ring boy. I was the gopher. You know, when people say about,
Yeah,
"Oh, I got this and I got beat up and I got that," I didn't get anything. I'll be totally honest. So any young guys who come in and say, "Oh, they beat me up and they stretched me and they did this and that," I never saw that stuff happening. If you got hurt in wrestling when you started, it was usually because you was a bit of an arsehole. So again, apologise if I say
no,
bad
that's
words.
okay.
But unless you was a bit of a knob and a bit of an arsehole, there was reasons why you would get knocked around a bit. And I never did. Maybe because I was 14, 15, but I was a very nice guy. I still believe I am, but I was a very nice kid. I was so respectful. Yes or no. So I just wanted to learn. I absorbed everything. And so, but I was the gopher. If there was a tease to be made, I made the tease. We'd get to Butlins and I was making the bed. So I used to have to take the trays up every day. They'd all have their dinner, throw the trays on the place up. I was taking back. I just remember going for everything. I'd have to carry people's bags. But for those couple of years, I didn't care. I knew that was my position until someone else come along. But in the ring, I was starting to, I wouldn't say establish myself, but I was getting more confident. I was getting in better matches. I wasn't just put on with someone and they would lead me and tell me what to do. I was now being involved in the matches, which was a great thing to do. And Brian Dixon was very good for that. A lot of people say different things about Brian. What I will say is that he always put on good people, and he always wanted me to be better. He didn't want me to be the guy that was just on first and open the show. He wanted me to be the guy that would have a position on the show, and he was doing sort of storylines with it. Not like on the day storylines. There was no big angles, but there was stuff that there was a reason why he was on the show. It wasn't just like you go on
Yeah.
with him, just do 10 minutes and get off. It was he knew how to get stuff out of me, and I really appreciate him for that. So that's what really learnt me the job, was being in a position where I was on with better people all the
And
time.
who was around at this point then? So now that you've gone full time, who are the sort of people that you're traveling around with? Whose dinner are you bringing to them?
Well, there was whoever was on the team. I mean, Doc Dean was with us a lot. I think you obviously wouldn't know a lot about Doc Dean. He's unfortunately passed away way too soon. Great guy, like really good to wrestle, good to be around. Mal Sanders, I was with all the time. I didn't go on the camps with Mal, but I was any shows that I went from London was always like myself, Mal Sanders, Steve Gray. Spent a lot of time with Sid Cooper, Brian Maxine, Johnny Kidd's another one that we'll speak about John later, I hope. These were just people that just, I guess they taught me to wrestle, but they also taught me how to be a grown up and be around these people and be accepted in this sort of world, which I can't thank them enough. There's a few paths they sent me down, which they probably should have done, which you ever speak to Mal, he might tell you that, but yeah, they taught me to be a man. So I think I was with Bobby Brookside a lot as a youngster. These are great people. Danny Collins was another one. Like what these guys taught me. They taught me to wrestle, most importantly, because that's what I was there for. But they taught me how to conduct myself, and I still see Danny on a regular basis. And I've got a bond with certain people that they're friends, and I'm in awe of them because of who they are. However, I've still got we've got like a mutual respect because they I really appreciate everything they've done for me, and they know how much I appreciate it. So does that make sense?
Yeah,
There
no,
is a lovely
totally. No,
bond
I
I've
get
got
what you mean.
with some of these guys that I'm so grateful of. I've got such a good bond with some of these guys that I'm really really proud of, because you don't. I've seen other lads that didn't get that. You sort of earned that bond, and that was when I felt like I'm doing okay at this. That was my pat on the back to say, yeah, I should be in there.
No, that's cool. So, what was it like for you then? Because at the time you're breaking in, is it just sort of after the time where the TV has come to an end? Because it was at 88, wasn't it, on the telly? And you're coming in like a few years after that. So because a lot of people, as far as they're concerned, or the average person would say, "Oh, British wrestling, that was it in '88," and then it wasn't on anymore. But obviously, there were shows still all over the country. But what was that like for you? Did you notice any differences? What was the vibe of all that at the time?
Well, it certainly was different. I think when you got to the show itself, it was still taken seriously. It was still, because these were stars, but they were big stars in the late 80s, big stars early 90s, but it just drifted off a bit because I guess the audiences changes. Certain people that will go regular, they all just branched off. So it's the same now. We get new audiences all the time. So I believe through the mid 90s, there was a time when it got really quiet. I think around about 95, 96, Brian Dixon almost stopped. He realised there wasn't the money there, the houses wasn't there, the business wasn't good. He started doing some tribute shows where he'd be promoting different girl bands and things like that and groups. He still kept like a Fairfield Hall, Bristol, but it was very, very low key. So that's when I met a guy called Tommy Stewart, Nigel Hanmore, great guy, and we did the camps for a few years. And I started going from doing the big shows for All Star with the Mighty Joneses and the big shows where I thought, wow, this is it. All of a sudden, I'm now doing 13 to 15 shows a week in Cornwall on the camps with travelling in the back of a ring van and having the time of my life. It was so when it died off a bit, I saw a complete change, but the job never died. The job has never died from me in it's 32 years now. The job has always been busy full
Just
time.
for just for anyone listening, maybe
Yeah,
from outside the UK, could you just explain the camps? Because it might be, it's a bit of a strange concept to some, I think, America and some parts of the world because they don't
yeah,
have
of
that
course.
sort of thing.
Well, the camps have changed a bit over the years. I mean, years ago, you always had the Butlins camps, which was a set team would go around, one car, travel, there'd be a ring at each camp, set the ring up, do the show, off you go to the next one. You could get 2 or 3 shows in a day. When I started doing those camps, it was more all of us in the back of a ring van. It was exciting. We'd have 5 lads or 4 lads all in the ring van, travelling with the ring, go to a camp, set the ring up, do a show at 12 o'clock, get the ring down as quick as you can, just 2 matches, leave there, 1:15, drive off, an hour up the road, let's do another show at 3 o'clock, get the ring up, do the show, leave there at 5, let's do another show at 7, 8 o'clock at night. And you could quite easily do three. We had some days where you'd make 4 shows in a day. And as a youngster, the money wasn't great, but it wasn't about the money then. It was just about me being on the road and wrestling. I loved wrestling, and I'm getting to do what I absolutely love 3 to 4 times a day with a group of guys that I love spending time with. And that's what it was. It was a community that could go around, set up a show, and you were wrestling in front of people that wasn't wrestling fans. They might have known a bit about wrestling. So our job was to entertain people that are not really into wrestling. And if you can entertain non-wrestling fans, you're very good at this job. That's what I think is. I can entertain wrestling fans, but you try and entertain a non-wrestling fan, you've got to work out what they want, and you've only got 20 minutes to find out who these people are, what they want to see, what they're going to cheer for, what they're going to boo for. Because if you're at a holiday park and you can't get those people involved, it's not a fun place to be. And I loved it. I loved that. I think I was good at that, and the guys I was on with were fantastic at it. So it was just a joy to be around. A guy called Denny King. A lot of people don't know him, but God, what a great wrestler. Probably done 20,000 matches in his life, but he was just so good. And to wrestle these guys on the camp and to learn a business through them, you learned the Marty Jones side of the job, which storytelling, psychology was just fantastic. He taught me how to sell. He taught me how to make comebacks and stuff like that. What Danny Collins had to teach you was just mind blowing. But then you go on the camp side of it and you realise you can do that stuff, but it needs to be a little bit more of a twist to it. So I may be saying too much. It might offend some people that I'm not putting their respect. There were just certain people that I wanted to wrestle in Southampton Guildhall, and certain people I want to wrestle at Bognor Regis Riverside Camp, if that makes sense. But yeah, just a great way to learn. And there's some very highly respected, well-known wrestlers in the world that are doing amazing, that learnt their craft of butlins, and they won't be ashamed to tell you. Even got people like Steve Regal about it. I mean, they're so warm when they talk about their times on the camps and butlins. It's overwhelming.
So going back to the sort of 90s time period, then this was a time from my memory of being a fan and going along and that. This was sort of a bit where there seemed to be a lot of people were sort of going off to like Germany and Europe. Some people were doing Japan tours and sort of coming back and that. Actually you did go to Japan at one point, didn't you? If I remember correctly. I mean, what was your sort of was that a goal of yours to sort of travel around with it, or were you just happy flying the flag
Well,
all over here?
so I've asked this question before. So I did want to go to Japan. I wanted to do Germany, which I did. I did do to Japan. I did it at a good level. I had a good few trips. It's seven in all I've done, which is nice. And it wasn't just going for one job. They were like proper trips. So that was good.
Yeah,
It's for a good company, Michinoku. There's some nice footage out there. So that was very good. So once I got to that, there was a little chapter that I thought, well, I've done that. I didn't really push for that anymore. The Germany stuff I've loved. I've been very lucky to get the very, very back end of what the German tournaments were. I did a 60-day thing in Hanover once, and everybody said it was the worst time to be there. It was the worst business that had ever happened in Hanover. To me, it was the best 60 days of my life. We was in a caravan at the back of the tent, living there. It was just an amazing life to be wrestling every night, wrestling good people. Weekends were fantastic. During the week wasn't so good, but it was just to be there to say I did it. So when I broke those sort of goals, all I've ever wanted to do other than that is just wrestling. I mean, I've answered these questions before. Someone would say, well, when this person was going off to WE, or this person was wrestling at Wembley, or this person, as long as I had a job that day, I was always happy. And I'm still going to that now. I've just seen Red Pro have just announced a big show at Wembley Arena next year. You think, I've done a bit of Red Pro. I could try and get myself back in the show. I could really push for that. And then I thought, actually, I'm going to be at Chelsea that day, so I'm probably already going to be working. And as long as I'm on a show that day, I'm very happy, which is a good way to be. It helps me that I'm never going to be bitter about things and never going to be envious. If I'm working that day, I'm quite happy. I could be working in the village or in wherever, or I can be in Wembley Arena. As long as I'm working that day, I'm very happy, and I've always gone on that basis, and I think it keeps me level-headed and very humble. I think.
yeah. That kind of links to what I was going to go to next. So sort of when we got to the 90s as well, there seemed to be every week a new promotion was jumping up from the UK who were going to save British wrestling. There was always like different. Well, I won't name them all, but there were certain ones and certain people who kind of led them. Sometimes a bit cult-like, but they would sort of jump out and like, "We're saving wrestling. No, we're going to save wrestling." Whereas someone like yourself who's there day in day out still wrestling, and at that point, I think you had All Star, you had the Wrestling Alliance. There was still Premier going like in big strides. There was another one that's I've forgotten about now. But what was it like for you when you're seeing all these sort of companies coming out saying they're going to save it, when you're like, well, I'm wrestling every day anyway at the moment. What are you talking about? You know?
Yeah, well, I think I answered that before. Then it was as simple as that. I was always working. There was times I was a bit put out. I remember Live TV did something. I'm not sure who was running it. Phil Powers had something to do with it, but there was people running these certain things, and there was a bit of exposure to anything. I should have had the call for that. I could say, well, why didn't I get the call? FWA, I never once got a call. And I thought, well, I was never bothered, and I generally mean that because I was working every day. I wasn't getting the coverage. I wasn't getting myself out on the latest magazines on Power Slam and stuff like that. But I was working every day, and I don't know anyone who worked more than me over the last 32 years. There might be, but again, so that was always my accolade. If I was working, I was happy. I didn't need to be on these other shows.
Oh
I was
shit,
a
yeah.
little bit miffed at times, thinking, well, why have I not had the call? Why have I not? I mean, these people never even inquired. I never got any. There's so many companies out there, never once even contacted me, and it's like, well, that's fine. I'm miffed why they don't sometimes, but on the other hand, I'm already working, so maybe they think, well, he's already working, there's no point, or they're just not interested. And I'm fine with either one of them, but as long as I'm working, I'm happy. If that makes sense.
So what was it? Yeah, no, that's true. But what was it like on the sort of wrestling scene? Were there certain, obviously different people going, all these different companies that are shooting up now, and some stayed for a bit longer, some came, did one show and disappeared
Yeah.
again. What was the vibe like with people? Was there this, right, yeah, it's coming back on TV? I mean, we had the wrestling channel for a little while in the
Well,
early 2000s and things like that. Was there anything from your point of view where it was like, this could be the one, or this might be the thing, or we say, were you just like, yeah, I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm all right?
Well, I think when I first started, there was things happening, and you'd hear something on a grapevine. You thought, oh, this could be something. I mean, I used to get offered the ball jobs all the time. Are you interested in wrestling here? Yeah, of course I am. Yeah, I want to go. I want to go anywhere. It would never come off like. And I know I was told very early on, unless you've got like a return flight ticket in your hand, unless you've got the plane ticket, it's probably not going to happen. And I've gone on that sort of all my life. Really, it was a good learning curve for me. So I've been sort of promised stuff, and there's things in the pipeline, but no, I've heard a lot of things. This is going to be the big thing, and this won't be. This will be, and some things have done really well. I remember, I think, Red Pro again. I don't want to bring them up, but I remember when it was a very small time thing, and now they're doing fantastic. So there are some companies where you give them time, and you do see them rise and rise. Others, I've seen them get to a level and just drop off.
Yeah,
But I mean, I've always stuck with the family route. The All Star was a great thing for me for many, many years. Scott Conway, I guess we'll certainly talk about him. Brilliant times, just got commented. These were good, consistent people to work for. I now work mainly for Megaslam, and I can't fault them at all. It's just for regular work, and obviously I supply the ring as well, so it gives me a bit of a boost. I'm not just getting a wrestling wage. I can make a respectable wage out of it. That's like to make a living and pay a mortgage on the strength of it. So I think I've always been with companies that have been able to give me enough to justify
yeah.
just sticking with them. I'm not needed to sort of go elsewhere. And yeah, these, and you can sort of see the vision. Is it going to be something? Is it going to fizzle out? And you just don't know. Megaslam 10 years ago used to do something. I didn't see him going anywhere. And I've spoke to Brad a lot about this. And yeah, I didn't see a vision there. And if you look at it now, you know, all these things. Scott Conway was another one. I remember watching shows of him years and years ago when I was just a fan. Didn't really see it ever. And the next thing I know, he was putting on some of the best shows in the country. I don't think anybody touched Scott for a period of time. I mean, you know yourself, just
Yeah,
some of the best shows around. So the time is what tells you that, you know, everyone's a bit of a flash by night, and then all of a sudden they really
yeah,
step up
some of
and
the things.
learn
Yeah.
their game.
So what was it like then? Because say the first time we sort of met was when you were working for Scott Conway, and at this point, I'm meeting James Mason, who is a season pro at the top end of the card. How is how was that compared to being James the ring boy, bring me my dinner? Because at this point you're at that end, you're not that guy anymore. How is and how what's changed in that time, and how is it for you seeing new people obviously coming in or people coming over and going back again and whatever else? Because obviously, I imagine top of the card's a bit different to being the new guy in the
Well, I guess the
totem
difference
pole.
was I didn't take people's plates up anymore. I didn't make the beds and make the teas. I finally realised I'm not there to make teas. So that was the main thing. I don't believe my attitude changed. I think I realised who I need to be aware of, and you learn in this job who you need to not so much listen to, but you know if someone's coming in the change room and they've got something to offer, or if they're all talking, you don't need to bow down to them. So I realised that quite early on. But I think I was still there for the same role. I was still there to do the match I was put in and to do that match as good as I could. If it was the second match, if it was the last match, if it was the main match, I don't really think it ever mattered. I find now if I'm at a show and I'm in the last match, which never really used to be the main event, but now it seems to be that last match is the main event. I do find a bit of pressure on myself now because I don't feel like I'm there anymore. Years ago, I was fine. It didn't matter. Whatever position you put me in the card or on the show, I'll do the best I can, and I always try to live up to it. I don't want to be in that position now. I find there's a bit of pressure there, and I think there's a lot more expected of people when you're in that position now. So I'm quite happy being somewhere else on the card. But back then, it was like I thrived on it, and the audiences expected something from you, and they sort of knew you as well, which was a great feeling. You turn up to a show now, and no one knows who you are, so you've got that first walk through the curtain to tell these people, I'm someone, I'm good, enjoy this, because I'm only going to be here for 10 minutes and I'm going to go. You might never see me again. Back then, when you say about Guildhall, when you walked out, 90% of the audience knew who you were. You walked through the Guildhall from the back, and 90% of people knew you, and it made it so easy in a way. So as long as you give them your greatest hits and your bits that they know you can do and they like to see, they were very happy. Now you've got to educate them from the second you walk at that curtain to the second you leave, and it's harder in a way, but it's still very rewarding when you get it right. It's still a lovely feeling.
So what about then? See, as I say, you're in the sort of the veteran spot now at this point. Well, you still obviously still are, but like you're at the top of the show. You've got that respect. People are looking up to you. You've got new people coming in. I remember when I started, you did some training with me, and you're training people. What was that like? Because for instance, when you came in, I imagine it was still pretty much. It was a bit magic circle, still closed shop. No one got nothing without showing something. Like you said, you happened to do the amateur thing, some people saw it, it went up. But nowadays, at that point, we'd applied to like the wrestling school. You know
Mm.
what I mean? It's a different, and nowadays there seems to be a wrestling school on every corner. What was that like being sort of in that position of looking at as a gatekeeper of the sport, if you will? Like of people coming in and like yourself, what was it you were looking for? Obviously, the being a trainer moves on. We'll get into all that bit a bit later. But what was that like at that point? Because you're starting to see these people coming in who maybe weren't as um, well trained as like they would have been at your time.
Yeah, well, again, a different time, and it was just a different time. So I never really did the training until later on. I do the odd little training thing and I'd always help anyone at the show, but that wasn't my thing. I was just there to be in a position to do my match, so I never really looked at any of the other side. I never really thought about the training side of things, and I'd help anyone, and I still would, and I like that side of it. But that was never what I was there for. So when people did sort of come and go, every now and again, someone would come. You think, well, this guy's got something. He could potentially take my job, but you didn't see it like that. You just saw it as you'd encourage it because ultimately you wanted better people on the show. You don't want bad people on the show. So if someone's good, you encourage it and you help them, you want them on the show because there is no better feeling than being on a show with great workers. When there's a couple of weak people on the show, it does bring the whole show down, and you sort of outcast them, and you don't mean to, but maybe you think they don't deserve to be there or something. So if there's anyone who's got something to offer, you help them. You want them there because they can really add something to the show. And I was always on the basis if this show's good, the show we do 2 months down the line is going to have more people and more people and more people. Didn't always work like that, but that's how the mentality I would believe. If we put on a good show today, next month at Guildhall is going to be bigger. Next month at Portsmouth is going to be bigger. Yeah. That was how I always saw it. So yeah, you always helped it and encouraged it, but I was still just there to do the job that Scott or Brian had asked me to do. You're on with this person, have a good match. That was basically as far as my orders ever went. And if the match was good, I'd get booked again next month or the next day.
Next one, yeah.
So I think in wrestling, like you can, especially Brian would, you could get rid of it any time. Scott's a prime example as well. If they don't like your work, if they don't like what you're doing, you're gone. So a lot of time people would come and go. They'd come in, get a few chances. They'd be on a show. If not so much pulling their weight, but if they wasn't good enough, they would be shown the door pretty quick. Unless you had something really good to offer, you could be pushed aside very quickly. So that's what I noticed at that sort of time, sort of 7, 8, 10 years in.
Yeah.
Guys would come and go. Not many stayed around for long. Maybe they didn't want it enough and realised there isn't mega money here. Maybe the travelling isn't what they wanted. Maybe they didn't want it enough. I don't know. But I know with Brian and Scott, if you wasn't up to what they wanted, you would get pushed aside, and then you'd be on other shows that didn't really, to me, have the same appeal.
Yeah, that makes it. So where does that lead them from someone who's not wanting to train to one point the biggest company in the world come knocking on the door and go, can you help us do some training, please?
So, we used to do some extra work. Yeah, we used to, when the W would come over the O2 or match, you could get extra work. One time I managed to get a match there, which was amazing thing to do. But we just did extra work, and they happened to be that day they were doing the training for the NXT UK in the ring. It wasn't so much a training session. I think they were trying to get some camera stuff, trying to get some footage of the guys that they'd signed for this NXT UK thing. And Rob's in there doing the class, and I'm really close with Rob. And I just said to Rob before I said, anything for me, like I said, I'm not trying to get a job. I don't think I want to be as the talent. I'm not there. That's not what I do anymore. I'm not as where I was. So I said, if there's anything going on, I don't know what. And he said, sort of leave it with me. He says, your name's been mentioned or something. And blah, blah, blah. Nothing more was said. And then just out of the blue, I got a call off of William Regal, Steve Regal. And yeah, they sort of went from there. And I explained that I've never done coaching. It's not my thing. And they basically said, well, we want you because we believe you've done sort of more matches than anyone else, and we believe you can add something to it. And so I went along to a few of the training sessions. I was like a guest coach, just helping out. And a guy called Matt Bloom was like the main boss there. And I'd like to think he liked what I did. And I assumed he did. And then before I knew it, I got a job there, got a contract, and then that got raised quite a bit, not long. And then it saw me right through COVID. And I'm just so grateful of what they managed to give me for a time when wrestling could have been at a very bad time for me, especially through COVID. I don't know what sort of job I would have had to do. I'd have had to stop wrestling. And because of that job and what they offered me, they kept me through and kept my family. We bought a house on the strength of it. We've had it's gone from strength to strength since. Obviously, it didn't last long as we know, but it was still, to say I did that for those few years was pretty out as well. To say I worked for
What
WE.
was the what did the without giving away all the trade secrets, what was the sort of training program there? What was expected? So, if people listen to this thinking, I'm a wrestler, I want to be a wrestler, obviously WWE is the place to go. What advice should you give them based on your experience? What should they walk through the door being?
So as the training side of it, it was we're training you to be TV wrestlers. So again, I don't know what I can't say, but I feel I can say that. You're training to be a wrestler, but ultimately you're training to be a TV wrestler. Now, I've been a live wrestler all my life, and I still am. TV wrestling, it just blows my mind. Being around that scene and seeing what they do and how a show comes together is absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, it just blew me away. Every TV day I'm there, deer in the head, like, oh my God, what is happening? Somehow this TV show comes together that myself and Johnny Moss had a lot to do with it. It's like, wow, we just created that with all these other people. So you're training them to be a TV wrestler, ultimately. But you're also training them to be athletes. You're training them to be sports people, training to be entertainers. There's a lot of training that I found it wasn't so much we're training you to do this move and that move. There was no, people say I'm a bit of a technical wrestler, which I don't. I do X amount of moves as well as I possibly can, and people believe you're this amazing technical wrestler. So we were just teaching them how to do things and make sense out of it. I think with WE, when it comes to NXT, if you can do stuff and it makes sense, that means more than doing a crazy fancy move.
Yeah,
they're one of the biggest company in the world that have seen absolutely everything. And you come to doing a double backflip, something like that, they're probably seeing it. So unless you can take your head off and spin it around, or they've seen it all. So as far as I was concerned, unless you've got some fantastic name value and you can offer something extra, they want to know that what you do in that ring makes sense. If it makes sense, then that to me seems to speak volumes while I was there. And all I was trying to do was put a bit of logic into everything I did. If I do a training session, I use the word logic 5,000 times. Yeah. Is it logical to do that? And to me, that's what I try and do now. We always contradict ourselves. Some shows where it doesn't make any sense at all, but the crowd are on their feet going crazy. So ultimately, that's probably the right thing to do. But if you can do wrestling and make it make sense, you invest people, I think. You can't insult people's intelligence. We know a lot more about the business now, but if we can still make sense of it, if we can put these extra little finer bits into it, to me, that speaks volumes. And I found that was very important to them, especially on the NXT side of it. Raw SmackDown can be very different from what I gather, but when it comes to the NXT side of things, if you can make a bit of sense out of your wrestling, you've got a good chance of standing out. That's the best sort of advice I could say. If I've said too much, I don't know. But that was my take on it, and I made sure every training session I did made sense and looked convincing. Really, I wanted people to think, well, yeah, convincing. Yeah, we look like athletes. We look like we can go because wrestling's changed a bit now. With days have gone when it used to be certain people in the ring. Now they want to see athletes. They want to see people you don't see walking down the street. They want to see people that stand out, and that was what I think that NXT was trying to do, and it did work
Yeah.
in so many ways.
I remember Drew McDonald, one of the bits of advice he gave me once. He said, "You just got to remember, Brett." He said, "People want to come and see the freaks."
Well, they
He said,
do.
"To be one, stand out." That's what he said.
I couldn't agree more. They want to see the freaks, but the freaks need someone to go on with. So it is. You
Yeah,
can't have a. I think didn't Scott do it at all once. Oddities and that he tried to put on,
yeah,
and I didn't see any, but I'm sure it was entertaining. I don't know what sort of business did, but you can't have a team of freaks, but you certainly need freaks. You certainly need people who stand out. You need larger life characters.
yeah,
Uh, yeah,
yeah.
that's what
That's what
I
he
think.
meant. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah,
And if you go to a
and
WE show and walk around the catering, you see. I mean, I couldn't believe the first time I did one of the extra work there, and you walk around, you see these guys. These are huge. Like you see them on telly, they're big guys, but when you see them, you're standing next to them in the queue at catering, or they walk past you in the corridor. These are huge guys. You know, you can just they're head turners. Not everyone, but a good amount of those people. They walk past you. Wow, you know there's someone. And yeah, and I think wrestling still needs that, and I'm glad that does still exist. I really am.
no, no, definitely. So where do you see the UK now then? Because again, this is a scene that you've been loyal to your whole career. Obviously, you've gone away and come back again. Now you had your little tours around, obviously, but for someone who's come in for the camps and all that you were doing then, through to the sort of the 90s thing where it kind of all blew up again. What's it like today? Because people again might not even listening, might not even realise there are still shows out there today because what it's like. If it's not on TV, it doesn't happen. But obviously the internet's helped that a lot because a lot of people have got their own sort of YouTube channels or websites and things like that, and I guess it helps put things out there. But what's your state of the union for sort of wrestling in the UK today?
Well, I think we're getting back to the stage where there's a lot of shows. I mean, I'm still full time. I don't do anything else. So I'm still very blessed that this is a full time job for me. I don't mean there's not so many guys doing it full time. There's some, but not many at all. There's just so many shows, but they're obviously all weekends, so you can't possibly make all the shows you're doing. Some shows are run as a business. I believe there's an awful lot of shows that aren't run as a business. So those shows that aren't running this as a business, they're there just because people want to wrestle. They're just so I don't believe they're the top quality shows, and I don't think they're doing this country any good at all. They're always going to be around, and there's more and more chances for those shows to exist now because, as we said earlier, there's training schools everywhere. And I'm not knocking any of the schools. There's schools everywhere. After trainers that I've not heard of, some trainers I have. I'm not saying I should have heard of them, but I feel like for the time I've been in a job, if you're running a school and you're a trainer, I feel like I should have heard of you. And so it sounds like I'm doubting the schools. I don't know. I've not been to the school, so I can't comment. But there's so many schools, which means there's so many shows. So many people want to be a wrestler now. You get talking to someone in a bar somewhere and they say, "Oh, I know a wrestler. Oh, what's his name?" They say the name, but you've never heard of him. Years ago, you sort of had heard of all the wrestlers. So
Yeah,
we're at a stage in the country where there's so many wrestlers. And well, again, back to what I said, I don't believe all these people are running shows as a business. If you're running it as a business, I take my hat off to you. If I agree with you, if I like you, I won't say any names, but there's certain people I don't get on so well with, but they're obviously doing this as a business. And if they run a show and get 200 people in and run a show 6 months later and get 250 in, their business model's working. So I can't fault what they're doing. If those people are coming back to see the show again and again, who am I to question what they're doing? But I do feel there's a lot of shows out there that have not been run as a business. And I think they are causing the British scene a bit of harm. But there's nothing we can do about it. So we've just got to work around them and hope that the cream rises. And I think it is doing because the regular companies that are doing this as a business, they do seem to be doing okay. I don't think they're doing amazing. We're not a boom or a peak, but we're certainly doing all right. And the Netflix has helped, I'd say. So wrestling is good on TV. There's lots of coverage, lots of new audiences coming through all the time. So I think we're in a good place, but I do fear that there's not a town in the country that hasn't got wrestling on, and there's so many of those shows have been run. There's just we've got a training school. We want to run a show. If there's 10 people in or 100, it doesn't matter because we're not doing this as a business. And I think wrestling should be treated as a business. That's the only one I've ever known it. And
yeah,
anything I've respected out of the job has always been through a business point of view. I think that's why I take it out to WE now. I mean, I've never blows my mind what a business it is. Just blows my mind, and we can't compete with them, but we can still make a good living, which I'm sort of proof of that you can.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. So, would there be any schools, if like people listening to this, would there be any schools you would recommend? Or
Uh, but yeah, there's a
out
few
there?
stuff. I mean, Joe Redman is the main man. Yeah, Joe Redman's fantastic. I went to his school the other day to say goodbye to Nathan Angel, who just been signed. Like he's doing fantastic, and that's credit that school. You know, he's just amazing school. If you want to do this job and take it seriously because you want to make a living out of it, you want to get somewhere, that's the place to be. There's another one, Elevation, is a fantastic school. Joe Connors is one, a great school, producing some great shows. Eddie Wyon's got a school down in Plymouth. It'd be hard to name them all. So Dean Allmark's got a school. So there are some good schools out there. I can't comment on all of them. But no, there's some very good schools out there. And I mean, I still love doing training schools, especially midweek stuff. I enjoy it. I feel like what I do when I train is a little bit different. So I do still like to get myself around some schools. But it's just a breath of fresh air when you go to a school and you see that 10 students are there and every one of those 10 are hungry. There's not four hungry people, six people that are there because they just want to be involved in the wrestling business. I'm not knocking that because that pays bills, but it's hard when you're doing a training school and you've got those ones that want to be a star. These ones are here, a bit of fun sort of thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I
No,
probably
no, no, no. I mean, yeah,
probably speaking out of
there's a
turn.
difference.
Yeah, it's frustrating to see because you can sort of hold some people back, which is a shame, you know.
No, that's good. That's good. So, what's James Mason doing these days and now? So, what's your drive now? So you got the ring. You're still working shows. What is left for you to do? Because there's been championships everywhere. You've worked everywhere. You've worked with everyone. What have you still got a bucket list? Are there things that you would still like to achieve?
Well, I think my bucket list is that I'm still doing it. So this has been my best year ever in British wrestling. Like I say, when the WE was amazing. So like, ultimately, yeah, you always want to get back. I'm hoping one day I get a phone call to say something comes. I mean, I always believe when you do something with WE, if you leave on good terms, that door's always open. You know, it's not open for me to walk in, but if something ever happens, I would love to think something else could come there. Who knows? But in the meantime, I've been given a bit of a lifeline by Megaslam. Couldn't be happy at the moment. I'm absolutely loving the job. I love being involved in the shows. You won't see me on cage match anywhere, so looking like I've retired, but I haven't. I've never been busier. The job's never been better for me. I don't wrestle so much anymore. Still wrestle a couple of times a week, but not wrestling to the schedule I was. I'm 46 now, so I'm not old, but I'm older. So I'm very grateful to still be doing the rings and in demand as much as I am. I run a lot of the shows. I help run the shows in Megaslam, so I do a bit of MC. I might referee on a holiday camp or I just run the show, and I absolutely love that I'm still at constantly as a full time job, involved, running, wrestling, anything you want me to do on a show. If I can be of service and make a wage, then I'm very
How many
happy to do it.
matches do you reckon you've done now in your?
That's the burning question. I wish I would have kept a note. I'm so angry at myself. I could have just tallied off everyone. I certainly believe between 15 and 20,000. I can't prove it. I know there was like a 10-year period where it was just constant. It was like you could do six matches in a day over every single day for like a week for a 6 month period and think nothing of it. It was just mind blowing how many rumours as I used to wear a mask sometimes. I can't admit that or deny it, but who knows? So that was always extra matches there. Somebody said he made an appearance last week again. I can't admit that. I don't know. But so with all that stuff, and yeah, I just couldn't put a number on it. I'd like to think 15 to 20, which is great. And then people ask
I
how many
think
times I've
so.
set the ring up. I just wish I would have tallied that. If I could go back and any young wrestler, don't write down who you wrestled and who won, and that's to me that's not important. But make a note of where you've been and how many matches, because I think one day you'll look back and you'll be really impressed with it. Yeah, so that's my regret in the job. I didn't make a note of every match and or every time I wrestled.
Now, my next question takes it a little bit, sort of, I guess, between the lines of it all. People listen to this might say, "Well, I train jiu-jitsu, or I train catch wrestling, or I train judo, or I train MMA, whatever, or I do proper wrestling or grappling or whatever." What have you got to say to that? Because obviously, the amount of matches you've had, and in the amount, like you say, you could have like four in a day sometimes.
Mm.
That must take its toll on you, even though it's perceived as fake.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Right.
got aches and pains and knocks. And I've been very lucky. I lost my two teeth years ago. That's the only real, it's amazing, really. The only injury I've had is where I lost my teeth. It was in a ladder match at Weymouth. I'm doing a stupid ladder match. I'm really fuming about it. So, yeah, that's the only injury, but I still wrestled the next day. I've touched wood, I've never had to miss a job, and I've always been blessed that I can change what I do in a match. I haven't got a set thing that I have to do. And if I wrestle someone good, you can get away with it. And yeah, so I've always been very lucky that I've never had to miss a job. I've had injuries, but nothing major. Maybe something's around the corner. You just don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not wrestling as much anymore, so that's helping me body a little bit. But I feel great. I feel great. I could still wrestle every night if I'm asked. I can still sort of go in with anyone. There's people I don't want to go in with, but I mean, I can still go on with anyone.
But
And
but the wear and
yeah,
tear of it is a legitimate thing. That's what I try and get over to people. I mean,
yeah,
you look at someone, they say, "Oh, UFC and that they do wrestling." Yeah, but they fight twice in a year.
but
You
what they're
probably had
doing is,
more matches in one week than they have in their career.
but their training regime. I mean, my training is setting the ring up. I need to get back in some sort of routine. I don't really train as much as I should, but my
But
training
in your
is
in your
set the ring.
prime, you were doing a lot of stuff, weren't you? You know
Yeah,
what I
so
mean?
yeah,
Isn't it?
you were just wrestling every day, setting the rings up. Like when you're talking about the Holland Camp, you were setting the rings up. Every time you wrestle, you've set the ring up and took it down. So that's my training. I think that's where I get hurt is putting the ring up. That's what takes its toll on me. The wrestling, touch wood, again, if I'm on with the right person, I, I'm fine. I feel like I'm still moving very well. I'm still throwing myself around the ring. The adrenaline just gets you through. I feel like the next day sometimes I wake up and I'm aware of it. I know. But if I just sit around and do nothing, it gets worse. If I get up and do it and work through it, I believe unless you actually break something, most of it's all in the mind and very sort of, yeah. Tell yourself it's in the mind. I used to say that a few reps back, it's all in the mind. Oh, I've got a bad knee, but it's in the mind. And I can guess because I've never been injured that bad. So I should probably stop talking because I'm talking
But
myself saying
that's the
it.
bit I always try and sort of put over to people is like the actual wear and tear of it. And again, the moves are the moves. You know,
Yeah, they are.
so
But
you kind of
I've been very lucky with the sort of moves that I do. You see some guys, okay, I don't see names, but they do. But I can talk about one of my best friends doing all right. Fantastic. Without that, my favourite opponent, I love Dean. He's great to wrestle. Still to this day, if I can wrestle every day for the rest of my life, it would be with Dean. He's like the perfect guy for whatever type of match we've got to do. But he's in a bad way at the moment. He's going for some surgery in a couple of weeks. He's in a real bad way. He had a finishing move. He was doing a leg drop off of the top rope every night. So he's doing this night after night, sometimes two times a day. Moves like that have to take their toll. I used to do a move where I'd jump and do a little head flip. And one day, I don't know if I did something to my neck. I did some damage to my neck. Never done it again. And I won't do it because I just thought it's just not worth it. But Dean just carried on, kept doing his leg drop. And now he's in a real bad way. So I've been very lucky with the move set. I've been very lucky with what I do in the ring. I'm very careful, and I know if something's not right or if something's hurt, just don't do it. But we're in a job where somebody says, "Oh, we want to do this today." They do it, but they can't do it, or they don't want to do it, or they're not in a good way to do it, but they still want to do it because they don't want to offend someone else. If anybody asks me to do anything, no, we're just not doing it. Just because I know there's 10 other things we can do. Back to when we trained with WE, there was some of the females, some of those, they just couldn't quite master certain things. Well, let's just do that. There's always 5, 10 other things you can do instead of that. If there's something you can't do, I can't do a leapfrog. My leapfrog looks like I'm dog having a piss. I can't do it, but I can do something else. Yeah. So if you don't do something, they shoot you in the corner doing up and over the corner. Well, I can do it, but it's not very elegant. It's not very good for me, so I don't do it. There's certain moves I don't do.
what
And
do you think now of all this? There's a lot more now. To me, it just seems to be ridiculous. Like it just seems to be like a higher spot each time. How are you going to top that? And this is in like the first opening match, and it's 20 minutes in, and they've already come off a ladder through a balcony on fire. It's sort of, and it all seems to be like social media, like an Instagram. They want that sort of 10-second clip to go viral, or whatever. What do
I'm
you
not
think
knocking
about
that. I
that?
understand that's where we've gone. That's how
Well,
the
your
job has
sound's
been.
gone, sir. Your
Oh,
sound went
sorry.
then. Sorry.
Am I still there?
Go from the start again, sorry.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's where we say the job's just changed. But and I understand why people want to work for those moments. I remember when we were training, they say, "Oh, that can be a GIF moment." Is that a GIF? Is that what they call it?
Oh
Shame
yeah,
age
like
here.
yeah, like a
Yeah, so
viral moment. Yeah.
that'd be a GIF moment. And but that is the difference in somebody making something from that match or nothing. Because that match could be forgotten about, but a gift can go viral. Next thing you know, I know people who've got booked on the strength of things like that. So I do get it. I've never gone down that route, and I don't ever want to. But I understand that is a thing. Some of these guys, I mean, let's talk about Will Ospreay thing. He's just phenomenal. Isn't he? I mean, you just
Yeah,
what you might say as a person about different things, blah blah blah. I watch him, and he's just blown away. Like, oh, this guy's fantastic. Where does he go though? How far does it go? But he's found a way to keep himself current. He's a genius. He's fantastic. But he's the next match's life. You just don't know, dear. So, and there's a lot of guys trying to compete with him, but we've already got Will Ospreay. So I don't like want to see people trying to compete with some people. He's a rare occasion. He's fantastic. So he's made that
yeah,
thing for himself. But all these other guys that are trying to do a Will Ospreay type thing, well, it's not really going to work because he's the guy, you know. But there is a huge market for that type of wrestling. So it's just changed. I can't compete with that, so I never needed to, never have. So maybe that means I might still be wrestling when I'm 70. It might be one of them. If I was trying to live up to that and think, well, I need to change my style, I'm going to try this. I just can't do it. So I think knowing exactly what you can and can't do in wrestling is one of the best things you can learn in this job. Know what you can and can't do, and you can adapt pretty much everything. We're blessed in a job where we can work around so many things. You know, you talked about Drew McDonald earlier. He was an absolute mess. He was in such a bad way, but I would go on with him and get the best reaction that I ever did. I mean, without that, some of my best matches ever with Drew McDonald. The guy could barely walk. He was in such a bad way. Operations in his back, walking with crutches. He was just an absolute mess. But you get him in that ring, he was fantastic. He knew what he could and couldn't do. Great example of someone who knew how to work right up until that,
yeah.
to the last day sort of thing. And that's the thing. If you can learn that in the job, you've got a very good chance in this job. Understand the job opposed to learning all these different things in the job, if you know what I mean, like moves wise. Understand the job, and that's a massive thing, I think.
That's excellent. Who would you say? Well, you've given one or two away already. But I was going to say, who would you say, like, if you could pick like your top five sort of opponents over the years, maybe with different eras or different times, those ones that, or maybe there were those matches where you still remember it as like, I don't know, it was a significant moment, or you learned maybe, oh, I've learned that tonight, or that made sense now, or oh my God, that was awful, but I learned a lot or whatever, because sometimes you get those as well. Sometimes, the worst one you learn more from, like sort of
Yeah,
thing,
no,
or
there are
whatever.
some.
Have you got any sort of key moments you can sort of remember?
Yeah, well, just again, it's not a funny story, but we was at Chelsea. I still do Chelsea like that. It's an amazing holiday park. I've wrestled there more than most other holiday parks, and I'm probably about 16, 17, very young. I'm on with Steve Gray there. There's probably 15, 20 people watching the show. Oh, it's awful. Off season, Thursday afternoon, no one else. I'm on with Steve Gray, and Steve just says, "Oh, I'm going to go villain today. I'll lean a little bit." I didn't quite know what that meant, lean. So Steve Gray, one of the finest, absolutely fantastic. And I tell people he is the one to watch because he was as good as Johnny Saint, but he looked like he was going to bite your ear if you piss him off. He had that
Yeah,
snarl and
yeah,
niggle. Just brilliant. He was so good. So I'm wrestling him and he's gone villain. And I remember trying to get out of moves. He'd get me in this headlock thing. And I'd always get out of it because I knew I'd get out of this hold. And I'd wrestle Steve Gray a lot. And he just wouldn't let me get a hold. He wouldn't let me get out of it. And he made me wait. He made me wait. And even though there was only 15, 20 people there, the way he manipulated that crowd and the way he built that crowd up, and so like, there was light bulb moments like realising just those extra few seconds here, an extra few seconds there. You can still get the same amount of timing because you just don't do something else. But this at this moment is what's important. And so the timing stuff, that was real good light bulb. Mal Simons was another guy for timing. You'd wrestle him and one day I'd be all over him. I'd be smothering him. I'd be the guy beating all over the place. And other days, he'd be smothering me. I wouldn't get a thing. I'd be trying to, no, I need to do something. No, wait. All of a sudden, he'd give you this comeback and the place just erupted. The Portsmouth Guildhall was a real clear one for me. Remember it well. I'm a Mal, wrestled Mal probably 200 times. But this particular day, it just felt different. And the way you worked the crowd, it was on like after the interval. So we'd watched the first bit of the show. We'd seen what was getting reaction, what was working, and we went out there and we didn't speak or anything. I thought we were doing the same as what we always do. And in Mal, I didn't remember it. It was just another day at the office for him. But I remember it very well. And boy, it was so different. And the people who was in our house, I mean, the reaction, it's a great venue, Guildhall there. And with Mal, yeah. So there's light bulb moments like that, more like when I was younger. And then as you get older, when you get to like some of the holiday parks where these people aren't wrestling fans and you've got to manoeuvre them to get involved in it.
yeah.
So there's times like that. Another time I wrestled Finley at Exmouth Pavilion. Random show, wasn't one of the biggest shows, and I just got told, right, you're with Finley, and I was terrified. 18 or 19 then, so I was more. He had a little time where he was in WCW and he come over for a month for Scott Conway and I wrestled him and I thought, well, why am I so nervous? This guy's one of the best. I'm getting better at this, so just work him. And I did, and it just blew me away like how good certain people are. And, even being in the job 7 years, you realise these guys are still just phenomenal at this. And so they'd be like my moments. And so I'm making a rule of answer that Danny Collins is another guy. Even to the last time I wrestled him, maybe 5 years ago, and I always talk to him about it. Him and Johnny Kidd are the two people I could go on with at any time, anywhere, not speak or anything, go in, and I'm basically just an object. I'm like a broomstick. They tell me where to go, look up, turn around, sit down, put me here, put me there, blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, you've done 20 minutes, and the match, in my opinion, is fantastic. I might watch it back and it's awful, but on the day, being in that match, that was just mind-blowing how good that was. And they've just played with me. They've just turned around and to go on with someone and completely trust them and let them do everything is a great thing to do, but there's only a select few that can do that. But I remember them two as excellent at that. What Brookside is another one. You could just go on with them and have these amazing matches and realise you've done very little. You've not said a word to each other. You've gone out and you've just had the people in the palm of your hands. And that to me is what I still fight for in this job, to go out there and just get people as invested as you possibly can. Rob was a great guy for that, to get people invested.
Excellent. No, that's 100%. So if anyone is listening to this and they would like to book James Mason or get in touch with you, maybe to wrestle, maybe a seminar, whatever it is, what is the best way for people to get hold of James Mason?
Probably the Facebook page. There's a private one, but yeah, there is a James Mason page that I'm not very active on it, but I do see the messages and if there's any bookings, you get it needs to be priced that way. So yeah, just James Mason on Facebook.
Cool.
Yeah,
I'll link that in the show notes for you.
Yeah, there is a
And
Twitter thing. I don't really use that.
Cool. And any final words for the audience, sir?
No, just it's nice that you've asked me to do something like this. I love talking about it. I probably babble on a little bit, so I do apologise. But yeah, just keep enjoying wrestling. If you enjoy that type of wrestling, if you enjoy this type of wrestling, if you like the family stuff, if you like the adult stuff, I don't care. It's all wrestling to me. And if you're at a show and you enjoy it, I don't care if it's my style of wrestling or if it's that style of wrestling. If you enjoy it, you've walked out of that building, at the end of the night, you've had a good time. And that's what every wrestler wants. So some people say, oh, it's not as good now, or it's this or that. It's all opinion. But when I'm at a show, especially when I hide a ring, I do like the girl shows, the Eve shows, and I watch them. It's not my type of thing. Not because it's girls, the way the show is and all that. I don't get invested in it. However, there's 300, 400, 500 people there go absolutely crazy. So people come and ask for feedback, and I can't give you feedback because you've just had 500 people screaming from just on their feet for the whole thing. So when it comes to that, if you can get that from an audience, that's what it's all about. And so yeah, just keep enjoying wrestling.
Great. Well, thank you for joining the show today. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Pleasure, anytime. See you soon.
Thank you once again to James for taking time out of his busy schedule to join us this week. It was great having you on board and to hear about all your experiences on the British professional wrestling scene. We will be back next week with another guest. In the meantime, you can check out the Grapple of Your Eye show on YouTube every Thursday, 7 a.m. UK time is when the new episode drops. The audio versions are also available on YouTube, Spotify, Audible, your normal podcast things, Apple Podcasts, all the range of them all. So please give us a check out, and if you could do a like and a review on those, that would be a massive, massive help. And obviously on YouTube, please give us a subscribe and enable notifications, and you'll be able to keep up on all the different things that we're doing. If you want to keep track of us during the week, you can keep us on our social medias. We're on Instagram, Facebook. There's a bit of TikTok. There's a bit of X. There's a bit of everything, really. But Instagram is probably our main connection. And for all the things that we're up to, you can go to our mothership, which is the grappleofyoureye.com. I've been Brett Summers. This has been the Grapple of Your Eye. Stay safe and stay on the mats, and we'll see you next time.
I tend to tell people, from an amateur wrestler to a professional wrestler to a cage fighter to being the alpha male of senior citizens now.
I would definitely recommend BJJ. I say quite frequently, I think it's really helped Clay. It's given him some structure, it's given him discipline, and also, but probably the most important thing, it's given him a routine. I mean, with the training, he knows where we're going to be, what day. He goes into the same gym or the same gyms now, because he trains at different gyms, and it's helped him. It's built relationships with his peers. He's got great friends. He's got some great role models in the gyms that he trains at, with not only the coaches but all the adults that are there. And it's just a great environment. It took me by surprise. It wasn't what I expected when we first walked into a gym.
And it's interesting in that there are a number of tournaments that are promised and organized with the Future Federation. And in one of them, there's a clause there will be tournaments with strikes involved, but they will be held under different regulation. And I saw that, and I completely missed that the first time I read that document, right? And I'm going, holy cow. I think that our forefathers, our founding fathers, they had the wisdom to see that a competition rule was going to drift away from the reality of combat, and that a rule set with strike was necessary in order to maintain that foot in reality.
When I qualified for the Olympic Games and being the first female in wrestling for New Zealand, I think that really took the cake. I think that was the best feeling ever, and I think about it often still, and it still makes me feel really good.